Okay, enough about that. Back to what I was saying. So, these cute little kids come into my home. They're adorable. They're 4 and 5. They are the cutest little kids. They're half Honduras and they're half white. This is Jewel and Brainer. He used to be called Brainer. We did change his name when we adopted him. They're so cute. Jewel was a little shy, still kind of is, but this is what they look like when we first got them. So that's their makeup. Their father is in Honduras. He's been kicked out of the country, and he went to jail a couple times while he was here, and because of that, they just sent him back. So he is no longer in their life. I think he was only in their life for the first year of Jewel's life, who's the youngest, and that's it. So he was only around for a few years, and then he was gone. So Jewel doesn't remember him. That's that. The mom is got issues with substance abuse and alcohol abuse, and the mom is in and out of jail for all kinds of things. And I've looked up her reports and all that stuff, and she's really struggling. And my heart goes out to her. And my intent has always been from the very beginning to respect the mother that is their mother, to honor that position, and to protect these children as much as I can from anything else that the mother may cause or do that's not in the best interest of the children. And so we've been trained to do this. We are ready to go, and we've got these kids. So within the first, back to what I was saying, we've got 24 to 48 hours to get them medically evaluated. And so I took them into this doctor, pediatrics doctor. They just do a full markup on the kids. They check them out physically, found some things going on. They found a lot of things. So maybe I will just take a moment, if you don't mind, and go through what it was like getting 2 kids. So I went from 2 to 4 kids overnight, right? I didn't have them in my tummy for a while. I didn't prepare for this. I just got 2 kids all of a sudden. They came with a lot of issues. When we took them to the doctor, when I first got Braden is the 5-year-old brother, he came into my home and his shoulder slouched a lot, and his shoulder blade stuck out of his back, and his arms, he would go like this with his arms, and he'd walk like this with his chin down, and his tongue would go a little bit. He looked special needs. Not only did he do that, but he would walk with his legs turned out on his tippy toes. Imagine like a ballerina doing point. And you know how the ballerinas, they turn their hips out and their knees are and their feet are pointed this way? But then imagine him on his tippy toes, and that's how he walked, okay? So it was like watching, to me, it reminded me of the Hunchback of Notre Dame. That's what it reminded me of, because he would that's how he walked. So all right, let's try this again. I apologize, my camera died. I needed another battery. Again, got an impression to do this and nothing was ready to go. So I'm like, I've got to do this while I feel the prompting. I'm gonna put this off. So let's backtrack for a minute. I was just telling you guys that I got them into the doctor, and they were both diagnosed with severe neglect. That's what the doctor diagnosed them with. There was toe walking, and there was, again, with the outturned toes and the tippy toes, right? And then there was an injury, I believe Braden had at birth, which was explained to me a little bit later on about the mom. She was injured at birth when he was born. He got caught on the mom's pelvic bone, his collarbone got caught on the mom's pelvic bone while she was giving birth, and lodged there. And so when they were trying to get him out, it broke his collarbone. So when he came out, he had this broken collarbone, but he also had what's called Erb's palsy, and his whole right arm was paralyzed and dark or just discolored, I believe, circulation had been cut off to it. So again, you can't really fix a collarbone, as you know, that heals on its own, but I do not believe this got no care. So whether or not, I'm not trying to throw the mom under the bus, again, when you're a baby, you don't notice those things as much. When you start to get older and develop, you start to notice limitations in your arms. And because babies aren't going like this, and they're not doing exercises that you and I can do. Braden could only get his arm to here. He couldn't straighten both of his arms. This one was always like this, and the shoulder always protruded. And so this doctor was like, I need him to get checked for all kinds of things. So she wrote up a list of places I needed to go. They both needed to be in speech therapy. They both needed to be in trauma therapy. They both got put into, they wanted the physical therapist, and it ended up having an occupational therapist as well come look at them. They got a psych evaluation. They got hearing evaluations because of the speech issues. They wanted to make sure it wasn't because of not being able to hear people, and it was more of a speech impediment. You're just determining
what it is the kids need. And so you're doing all these evaluations. I basically, all I did was take them to multiple visits. We were going to physical therapists, speech therapists, trauma therapists, miscellaneous, plus visits with their mom every single week. So my job and my life got completely taken over by this. And when I say that, I mean my family went through a whole learning curve. These children were told, let's just go into the therapy aspect of things. Just trauma therapy alone, they were diagnosed as severely neglected. They were diagnosed as being the age of like 2 and 3 when they were really 4 and 5. Now let me just give you some perspective on that, okay? No, Braden was about 2 and 3. Jewel was diagnosed as 0 to 2. So Braden was diagnosed as between the ages of 2 and 3. Jewel was mentally Jewel was between 0 to 2. And I mean it. Like, they could not gauge her. And when we were doing therapy, we did therapy for 2.5 years with these children. Trauma therapy. It's EMDR, EDMR. It's like a touch therapy. We did that. We did play therapy. And so we've done all those different therapies over the last 2.5 years, back to back, nonstop, gone every week for therapy, okay? All during COVID. All this happened during COVID, right? I had them in December 2019, and all that first year was just, new that way too. So what happened was, like, we had to go to the trauma therapy to help them process the trauma. Braden was diagnosed with PTSD with trauma therapy. He was at 5 years old, he had PTSD. Do you hear me? Like, no child should have PTSD, okay? Insomnia. And then we spent a lot of times with behavioral doctors and getting massive evaluations. We got genetic testing done. I will get to that in a minute. We had findings there as well for him to figure out what's going on with his physicality, all these things with the toe walking, sensory overload, rocking and moaning. We're just lots of, to me, I'm not a doctor, but to me, he looked very special needs. And he needed so much care, and there were so many issues there. And I'm not a doctor, I didn't know what it was. I would have thought, like, autism. But come to find out, if you have really good eyesight, eye contact with somebody, you don't have autism. At least that was like one of the main things. And every doctor I'd go into would be like, I think it's autism, I don't know. A spectrum? On the spectrum. And they'd be like, no, he's got really good eyesight. Eye contact with me. He's not got that. So then, let me just try and focus here for a minute. And then Jewel, so we'd go through these therapies, and Jewel was very, she would regress to being like an infant. So when they would go to try to, because basically what they do is they try to figure out what your age you are mentally so they can treat you at your age level. Because when you're young like that, you can't expect certain things of an age of a 3-year-old that you would a 6-year-old. You just can't. And when I'm talking, Braden's 5 years old and he's acting like a 2 and 3-year-old, that's a big difference in age. I have a 2-year-old in my home right now. She barely knows a few words. And she's learning the basics of life. When you get a 3 or 4-year-old, like preschool age, there's a big difference. They can talk, they can do all kinds of things that 2-year-old can't do. And then I had Jewel over here that was regressing. They could not even gauge what age to treat her at. So they literally would just do the best they could in therapy for her, but she would regress all the time to an infant. So her mentality was of an infant. And it was very concerning because she could barely speak and behave and comprehend little things that you think of like time, today, tomorrow, tonight. Nothing there. And that's to be expected from a 2-year-old. A 2-year-old, you're not going to be able to explain to them tomorrow or yesterday. 3 and 4 and 5, you should be able to, right? So anyways, that's enough about the mental side of it. So I had done all those mental therapies over those 2.5 years. And then the physicality, Braden was going to physical therapy and occupational therapy. All of this was done 40 minutes away. All of these. So every time I went somewhere, I went to Overland Park, Kansas, or Leawood, Kansas, or I'd end up downtown Kansas City, Missouri, which is it's right there this is where I went every week, every single day, 40-minute drive somewhere. They had to take them out of school. Plus, not only did Braden have physical therapy and occupational therapy, he had trauma therapy and he had speech therapy every single week. Plus, he was going to see his mother every single week. Plus, he was going to preschool because they were, again, diagnosed with neglect and like no exposure to the world. I gotta go answer that. Neighbor kids hanging out the door. I'm going to do these from now on, obviously when the kids are in bed or gone for the day. So I apologize. Okay, so what was I saying? So then I mean, this is all that's going into my life. It's just everything. And then we had Jewel in speech therapy. We also had her in the trauma therapy. We had her in, that was it. We did some physical therapy for her too, but they came out no findings. So what ended up happening is, let me just give you a list of just Braden. We had Erb's palsy for the arm. We had brachial plexus for the shoulder, for the collarbone, which is all the same problems. Permanent injury, by the way. He's never going to get more range of motion than this. Like, he's never going to be able to get his arm straight. He's never going to be able to go like this. So, you know, if you're LDS, Latter-day Saint, member of my church, imagine you're sitting in church on Sunday and the sacrament's coming through and you go to take the bread and the water. What do? It's natural for you and me to grab. And as we do everything with the right hand. That's his problem hand. So it was a problem just to grab a piece of bread and go from here, from the tray. So think about this. It's just this motion. You're just doing this from the tray to your mouth, right? He couldn't do it. So he'd get to the cup and he'd go, and he'd spill all over himself. So I would have to help him. He could not get the hand to here. Now he can. Now he kind of overcompensates. He has to bring his shoulder way up here like this and get it up here like this. That's what he does. So permanent damage there. I'm not going to throw the mom under the bus. Again, I don't know if when you're a baby, like his you can tell. No one's doing this, right? No one's doing those kind of motions when they're younger. He was limited in range, and when you're a baby, you're just crawling, and he can do that fine. So anyways, I don't blame her for this. It's just, we're never going to get it full range of motion. He's never going to be able to go play baseball. You know, football is not going to be there for him. It's not in the cards for him. So what was I saying? Okay, so insomnia, the toe walking, the brachial plexus, the speech therapy, the trauma therapy, the play therapy, what else was there? I'm trying to think. That's a lot already. What we ended up finding out was there was more to it. There was, he was diagnosed with PTSD at 5 years old, okay? So that was the behavioral side. And then we eventually finally, this last year, just found out that not all the things, all the mannerisms, all the physicality, all of the delays, all of these things that are just very different about Braden, there is a diagnosis for it. We got him genetically tested. So they test your DNA. And the markers came back for a genetic disorder, which is called HNR-NPR genetic disorder. That is what he has. Everything that we've tried to pinpoint and figure out, this boy's gotten MRIs, he's gotten his tongue tie clipped, he's gotten an MRI, he has a big old cyst on the base of his spine, different brain development, but fully functioning at least. There's been all these things that we were trying to figure out. We've done so many tests and so many doctors to figure out what's going on with him. Come to find out, everything that I can name to you is a symptom of HNR-NPR genetic disorder, okay? So that's just Braden alone. Full-time job right there, okay? And then you've got Jewel, severely neglected, severely unable to communicate, doesn't like people, kind of like a feral child. They were like feral children, for lack of a better word. Just no social skills. You know, nothing. There's no socializing. And we'd get in the car and we'd just drive somewhere. There's a tree. Look at that big pile of sand. Like, you're just like, yeah. You know, like, it was so cute because he was 5 and he just hadn't been exposed to the world. Oh, and they were sick all the time because their immune systems were just shot. I have my theories why. I'm not going to share that because they're theories. I am going based off the information, again, that was either told to the caseworker or came from the caseworker based on whatever she was told and, you know, when she got them in care. So I'm not going to go into that because, again, I can't prove it. But we have theories about just kind of being isolated and not leaving the home very much. I do know that when they were in the home, they were renting, like, they were in a home that was rented out to a bunch of illegal aliens from, like, Mexico, like they were kind of like Latino. And my understanding is they all spoke broken English, and they were all men, except for, like, I'm not kidding, like 5 men, okay? And the mom and her 2 kids. And they stayed there. And so, you know, if you're learning, if you're speaking to people that have broken English, we thought maybe that had something to do with it. But my husband is fluent in Spanish, and so we would talk to them in Spanish, and it looked like they'd kind of look like they could understand you, but they would never answer like I don't know how to explain it. We never got them answering. I don't think they really understood Spanish. And they didn't speak it. So we drew that out of the conclusion, like they didn't understand it at least. and they just spoke very broken English. And I don't mean like speaking Spanish. I mean like they had a major speech impediments. So enough about that. This is just kind of like a gist of what I've had to deal with a lot. And the other aspect of this is this completely like overtook our family. My life now became, all I did was, they were my full-time job. That's all I did was take them to and from wherever they needed to go. Because you're trying not to take them out of school as much as you can, so you're doing a lot of the therapies after school, so you're doing things in and out of school, and that's all I did. So my 2 boys became very jealous, and they became very resentful towards the kids because of not only the strain that they put on me as the mom, and the meltdowns and the tantrums and the feral behavior that I had to deal with breaking things of mine, and just feral activity. Let's just leave it at that. It really made my kids resent them. Plus my kids, we really started to realize what spoiled brats they were. And these kids had nothing, and they were just, thank you for making this meal. Thank you for this. Thank you for, really? Do you mean I can have this shirt? Like, that's what I'm talking about. They had nothing. And so, anyways, this was the experience. And my wonderful children, this took a toll on them. And it was for the better, because it made them grow out of their comfort zone and made them appreciate for what they had and realize, what these kids have been through. And it also just took its toll on the family. Let's just put it like that. So after about a year of doing this, I finally kind of had a breakdown. It wears you down. It wears you down. The constant care, they're not where they need to be. We're trying to get them better. We're trying to and a lot of it just takes time and patience, and I don't have patience. And so I got to about November, and I kind of had a breakdown, and I didn't want to do it anymore. I was done. I did not want to do this anymore. And I took it to the Lord. And in my church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I know a lot of you probably already, not a lot of you, I don't know if there's one of you watching this, but people that know me know I'm a member, and are probably a member. But if you don't know, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints the men in our church hold the priesthood if they're worthy. And with the priesthood, we are allowed to ask for blessings. You can get blessings for healing. You can get blessings for comfort, for strength. You can get blessings for guidance. Blessings are there and readily available. So what happens is I will get a blessing. My husband lays his hands on my head and he'll give me a blessing, whether it's a blessing of healing. I usually get a blessing of strength or comfort, or usually strength, comfort, and guidance. Okay? So at this point, I went to my husband and asked for a blessing. I says, I can't do this anymore. I know the Lord has told me to do this, and I want to keep doing this, but at this point, I can't do this anymore unless he either tells me why me, Lord, why do I have to do this? Can't somebody else do this? And that's the very selfish, bratty side of me, okay? Because I just kind of want to be done. Don't want to do this anymore. So I went to said a prayer, asked for the Spirit to be here. My husband gives me the blessing. This is what I'm told in the blessing. November of, where is it? Sorry, let me just find it here. I closed my book. Okay, I found it. I'm back. November 12th, 2020, the end of 2020, okay? So I get this, but it says this to me. I write my blessings down in my journal, and then I take the information of anything that's happened in my life important, and I put it in like bullet points in Google Notes. And I write down everything. I timestamp it, and I give like a breakdown of the main bullet points of what was in the blessing, for instance, or whatever happened that day, so that I can go back and I can look at like a timeline of all the things that have happened in my life. I love that. So here's my excerpt of just part of the blessing. I bless you with strength and comfort at this time. I bless you that you might have and feel the love of our Heavenly Father. He is pleased with you. He does want more from you. And unfortunately, that more is more challenging. So when you're ready, let him know and help, and he'll make it known to you what he needs, because he needs you to serve at a greater capacity now. Not because you want to, and not necessarily because you need to, but because he needs you to. He needs me to. He needed me to do this. He's asked several others, and they can't or won't, and he needs it done. And I'm hearing this, and the Spirit is opening my mind at the time, because the Spirit bears witness to you, number one, of the truthfulness, and confirms to you what it acts as a witness to what Heavenly Father is saying to you, or the Lord, excuse me. And he tells you and confirms to you, and at the same time that I'm getting this confirmation with the Spirit, I've asked you to do this because of I know this is hard. You don't need to do this, but I need you to do this. I need you to choose to do this. And at the same time that I had that, my mind was opened. The Spirit opened my mind. And it's like I had this greater understanding where I cannot give you the words to what I was feeling at the time, but I can try it. I will try. I all of a sudden just had this understanding. I need you to do what others won't. They have told me no. I have asked others to do this, and they have told me no. That was what came to my mind. I need you to do what others won't do. I need you to take these kids. And now, looking back a couple years later, I look at it as I need you to foster. I need you to do this work for me. This is the work I have given you that I need you to do. This is your calling. Okay? And so I get this. That's the why. This is the why I need you to do this. And it's exactly what I needed to hear. And what happened is I was done. I was like, okay, So I will leave the other experiences out for now. But what I just wanted to say is that now that we've come full circle, if you will, it's been 3 years now that they've been in my, almost 3 years now that they've been in my home. We adopted them in July of this year, July 2022. And then in September of this year, 2022, Braden got baptized that morning, Saturday morning, September 2nd. And that afternoon, we all got sealed to them. My children have been born under the covenant, so they didn't need to be sealed to me. But Jewel and Braden, now that they are adopted, I was able to get sealed to them for time and all eternity, which was a really cool experience in the temple. That's where we're at. There has been lots of healing. There has been lots of love. And the interesting thing is, I will say this. I was adopted. I was adopted when I was 14 years old by my stepfather. I had my own father. I knew him my whole life. He was in my life. I would speak to him every year. I would see him once every few years. It was not very much. He was not in my life on a regular basis. But I had my own father. I was loyal to him. If you look at my journals from till I was about 18 years old, all of my journals are written to my dad. Dear Papa, dear Papa. Like my father, I'm a very loyal person. My father was my father. My adopted stepfather and eventually adopted father was always Wally. He was never my real dad. I never called him dad. I had my own father. And, I went through some trauma in my life, and as we all probably do. And I had lots of issues with parents and adults in my life. And I always have had some issues with feeling abandoned and all those kinds of things that kind of come with trauma. And I thought I would be the worst candidate for this. Come to find out, you look at everything. My experiences are why the Lord gave me this calling. Who better to understand what these kids have gone through and the feelings that they're feeling when they're ripped from their mom. I don't get to see my dad, and all of the experiences that I had being adopted. When these kids got adopted, I had the privilege of sitting them down and saying, we've been blessed with the opportunity to adopt you, should you so choose. I just want you to know it's okay to be really devastated about losing your mom because you are literally mourning the loss of your mother. I fully understand that because of what I went through. And then to be happy because you have a place to call home. You now have a father and a mother that will take care of you, and you can rely on us. We've shown you for the last 2.5 years of fostering you that we are consistent, reliable, we're a good, loving, stable family, and we've been able to give you an environment that you can thrive and grow in and heal, okay? And I was able to help them with the process of being adopted. There would have been no credibility there if I hadn't have had that experience, and I wouldn't have been able to help them on that level. When I told these kids this, when you're looking into their eyes, you are seeing and you can feel the connection. You can feel the relief in their heart that it's okay. And by the way, I want to be clear, that is their mother. I honor her position. She will always be their mom. She has the honor and the privilege of still continuing to see her children, because she will always have the opportunity to see her children over the years. And not only that, she's allowed to send them stuff, and I'm going to send her updates, etc., etc. I will never take that from these kids. That is their mother, and I honor that position. Unfortunately, she has gone through hell in her life, and I feel I have a lot of love and compassion for this woman, even though she hated me, and she threw me under the bus all the time. She burned bridges with me every chance she got. I'm not even going to go there. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I tried to have a relationship with this woman, and she was not having it. So that will always be there, because I can tell you right now, when we went through they put you through trainings when you're in fostering. So when we first started fostering, they train you on how to deal with certain situations with kids, right? Mostly trauma, because that's what these kids have been through is trauma. They train you on that. So as things progressed with these kids and they got diagnosed with medical issues and behavioral issues, I had to get trained on level A, which is when the kids are like breaking things in your home, beating up your kids, fighting, kicking, scratching, punching, all the things that are physical and behaviors, negative, bad, violent behaviors. I had to get special training to be able to have level A children in my home. And not only that, but I got trained on trauma therapy so that I could be able to handle kids with trauma. And then I'm also trained for medical. Because of Braden, he is all medical needs. And so they were at these levels of medical and level A foster children. So that's what I have training for. Why am I sharing that? There was something else I wanted to say. I remember what it is now. Then you get a training when you go through the adoption process. It's called STARS, I think. Maybe that was the original foster training. So there's a training for when you adopt. And when we first went into the training, I was very protective and I was like, it has been such a negative experience for these kids to have any kind of in interaction with their mother. There's been positive, yes, they get to see their mom, hugs and kisses, but for the most part, it traumatizes them. And we go through 2 and 3 days after any visit with their mom of meltdowns because they're re-traumatized because they don't want to leave their mother. They are bonded to this woman. They love her. She loves them. Lots of love and affection. That woman, by the way, when she is not doing the things she's not supposed to be, when she is doing right and clean, if you will, she is the most amazing mom. That woman is amazing. I admire her. She is an amazing cook. She loves those kids. She gives them love and affection. She's amazing. But when she is not doing what she's supposed to be doing, she's awful to them and to herself. And unfortunately, I just want to be clear, those things, unfortunately, control her right now. She has not mastered those addictions. And my heart goes out to her because she's a single mom. I have them now. I've adopted them. But I do not know how a single person in this today and age would be able to succeed. To me, it's a miracle if she were to have gotten them back. And I have compassion and love for this woman. And so what I wanted to talk about was, in this training, they made it very clear. They said, when you adopt these children, you have to be open to letting them be able to interact with their mom in some level, shape, or form continually. She goes, the number one thing that you don't want to happen is when these children get to the ages of teen years and you've kept them from being able to see their mother, and then now they're going to become an adult and they're going to go and see their mom, and guess what they're going to do? They're going to turn around and they're going to hate you and they're going to turn their back on you, who's raised them now at this point for all these years, and say, I hate you because you kept my mother from me. You do not want to have that conversation someday. And I was like, oh, so I really didn't want to have this engagement with their mother because it doesn't come out positive in my opinion. And by the way, the therapist even recommended they don't have interaction with their mother. And in their experience, it never goes well. But there is wisdom in being able to see your mother. When you are growing up, it was explained to me in this training, this adoption training, you go through different levels of maturity, right? So when you're 3, your brain has an understanding of a 3-year-old. When you're 6, you have a broader understanding of things. You're growing, you're maturing. So what happens is you look back at that situation you went through at 3, being fostered and taken from your home, and you go back through and you start to ask questions to the adults in your life, and you go, well, what happened here? Why did this happen? Why? Why did all this happen? And your brain reprocesses everything based on how it's explained to you at a more mature level. And you do this every phase of your life. You do it again at 8, you do it again at 12, you do it again at 16, you 15, 16, and you do it again as an adult, and you do it every few years. And that explains a lot. We all do this, actually. And we want to know why this happened when we were younger. And what happens is your brain processes it at another level of maturity. And so they get a greater understanding of what's going on in their life. And the reality of the situation is, anytime that you tell a child that their mom is bad or horrible or is doing what's wrong, they take it personal. They don't differentiate between, that's my mom's issue. No, they shut down because in their brain, that is their mom. And if you're speaking evil of their mom, then there's something wrong with you. I could be telling you right now in the face that your mother just tried to murder you. This is not the situation that they had, so I want to be clear. But let's just, for an example, I heard a situation of a little boy back in St. George way before I started fostering. I know how he was in the hospital. I know someone that was part of the situation. This little boy had gotten beaten within an inch of his life with a baseball bat. In a coma, unconscious, brain swelling, in the hospital. When he came to, a week later, the first thing he wanted to know was where his mom was. Okay? His mother just beat him within an inch of his life. And the first thing that boy wanted was his mother. So, I just want to be clear. You're not going to break that bond. Like ever. And what happens is, when they finally do get to go see their mom, let's say that they go visit their mom every year. And then let's say they become teenagers. And they explain that even if these visits are a negative experience for these children, let's say it doesn't go well, the mom has issues, she's bringing up nasty things, she's being aggressive, she's talking bad, she's starting stuff, she's, whatever she's doing, painting a picture of what happened when it really didn't, whatever, if it ends up being a negative experience for their mother, they need to have that. Because then they can process in their brain, okay, my mom's got issues. Yeah, I see that now. And now with a more mature brain, when you're older, you can look back and go, oh, wow. The other thing that I did, I'm just going to kind of throw this out there because this is just kind of like on my mind and it's important. When you go through the adoption process, you can request all of the files of the case. So that can get pretty long. Mine were 700 pages long. But the reason that I did that is now I have documentation of all of the visits, all of the interactions with their mom. They break down those interactions. They saw mom. She fed them chicken and rice. She got a hug from them. She asked them how their day was. It was a positive experience. She engaged with them. She gave them lots of hugs and kisses. And then they left. Or another time, their mom was on drugs this time. We had to stop the visit before it even started because she was inebriated and she couldn't even be coherent. She's going to have to shape up or else she's going to lose the visit this next time. Like, they get to go back and read all of these documents when they're adults, and they get to go read for themselves. They don't have to take my word for it. They can go see the proof of everything that happened all along. They can go see exactly everything, and they can see how the judge decided to take them from their mom. I didn't take them from their mom. I didn't take them from their mom to begin with. They were placed with me. Okay? They were given options to go back. They were given options to go to family. No family would take them, or there was no family available to take them. There's all these things that they're going to see one day and go, okay, I have all the pieces now. And with my mature adult brain, I can now process this and still love my mom and still, who knows, maybe they'll reconcile someday. I am open to bringing her into our life as much as is possible without causing problems. So we'll see what happens in the future. It's a long video. Thank you for watching. That has been our experience with fostering. We will continue to foster. I will share other experiences that I have had with this later on. So for now, I just want you to know this has been the process. There has been so much healing. These two children are not who they were when I first got them. They have grown leaps and bounds. They have matured. I've gotten to watch two children learn about Jesus and watch them say Jesus, or Jesus, oh, we're going to pray, and watch the literal light come into their eyes, the light of Christ. I've literally gotten to watch the conversion of two beautiful spirits and share the gospel. And that's not the main reason you do it. That is, we're here to share the gospel and to help others around us. And this is my calling. I will never tell somebody, I would never even recommend this to anybody. If I'm honest, I would never recommend this to you. You will go through hell doing this. You will grow and refine, and you will be pulled to the ends of your mental, physical, spiritual capacity to do so. Okay? This will take you through the ringers. And I literally, if you said, I thought about fostering, I would say, okay, pray about it. And if the Lord tells you to do it, I would say, yes, you need to do it. But I cannot recommend it to anybody because of what you will go through. You will go through mind games. You will go through manipulation. You will go through the mom trying to get the kids out of your care because she realizes she's not going to get them back and she doesn't want you to have them. So she's going to try to accuse you of falsities and da-da-da-da. She's going to try to twist. I mean, the things that we went through, the mind games, I mean, I'll talk about those at one video because I would like to give some advice at some point based on my experience and what I have learned. So we'll just leave it at that for now. So goodbye for now. Thank you for coming to see this. Please Share this if you feel impressed to share this with anyone. And I just want you to know that I know my callings in life. I know that the Lord may call me to other things someday, but for now, this is what we do. So bye for now. Take care.